Welcome to Blue Sky. My name is Richard Tannery, and I started this program to celebrate innovators, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
How's everything moving forward with your proposal and whatnot?
Yeah, I got squashed.
Ah,
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. It is what it is. I mean, it was a very aggressive business plan, and ultimately the lender, one, I haven't managed that type of business specifically, so the underwriters had concerns there, and on top of that, the different attractions and stuff that I had kind of plotted into this space. I'd put some numbers on projections and stuff, but again, since I hadn't had direct experience in doing that, they kind of doubted that. So it's kind of how these things go when you're looking at these deals, and it's okay. It's for the best. So
Yeah.
why don't you tell me how you really feel about social media?
I think that my sentiment towards the great big mega of social media is a very common, unfortunate sentiment, as we all have kind of worked throughout this world and integrating social media. Like, it's a part of our lives in so many ways, and so I think a lot of us just want to be able to use it as the tool that it initially was created for, but we are finding more and more detriment behind this Megatron of a beast. And I don't know if, especially the older generation of millennials and boomers and people past those times are just, they're fed up. They're really fed up. So if you're a business owner, even more so, because you felt like as if you could connect at one point with your people, whoever that audience may be. And now there's so many barriers to entry that you don't necessarily get to have those personal interactions that feed into whatever focus your business is driving towards. And so especially for me in a community focused business, it's hard. So you want to remain authentic, but the beast tells you otherwise. And you have to play to the algorithm and all that shit.
Do you think that algorithm is somehow coded against certain types of industry, certain types of whoever it is? Or is there something more mechanical and not nefarious about it?
I don't think that it's coded against things particularly. Perhaps it may be if it speaks out against Instagram. The video that I recently posted, it's interesting that people were messaging me saying, hey, like, I'm trying to reshare this and I can't reshare it. It's like, never had any issues resharing anything before. So maybe that's an example, but I think that Instagram tends to go towards the grain when it feeds into the machine with especially like more taboo things that are like sexually focused, or nudity, or sometimes graphic and whatever. Not that may be, I don't want to say that to the extreme, but that kind of stuff sells. It gets interactions, it gets shares, and especially some of these news pages that I follow, like People of Los Angeles or New York, where there's some pretty wild stuff that you see. That stuff goes viral. It's intense, but you don't see the happy-go-lucky things that want to be shared. I wonder why.
Yeah. Weird how that works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like headline media. The graphic sells, sex sells, the controversial sells, but the
Yeah.
success stories, they don't sell. So we don't focus
Yeah.
there.
It feeds into whatever you want to look at too. I mean, TikTok's a great example of that. When you begin to scroll and within macroseconds, microseconds, it will decide what will be shown right after based on that interaction or exposure at the time. And so it's almost like you don't want to spend too much time on something because social media will know what it wants. It thinks what you want to see. I don't know.
Oh, it's crazy. So there was one that came up the other day. I was scrolling, and it was something about if you chop the head off of a snake, the snake can still bite you based on just kind of how the physical properties of a snake and how whatever it is biologically, it doesn't matter. But I saw that, and my wife was next to me, and she heard it, and she was looking at it, and later on that day on her phone, the same video popped up, which like we totally scroll different spaces. She has like her
Mm.
arts and crafts stuff, and I have like guns and all this kind of stuff. But somehow her device knew that we had been talking about cutting the head off a snake, and it pulled up the exact same thing. Crazy. But like on the algorithm learning immediately, I think it was Instagram last week, I clicked on one of the shorts or reels or whatever they call them, and it was someone talking about investing. Hey, if you do this, then you can 10x all your shit. You've seen a million of these things, but it was the first one that had like popped up in my feed. So I clicked it, I watched it, I was like, that's bullshit. But after that, it had like re-engineered my entire thing. So every other short that popped up was some clown. So, icebreakers. Where were
Mm.
you born?
Dallas, Texas. I'm a Southerner
Yeah.
by heart.
What's your favorite movie genre?
I love horror and slashers originally, especially like the old school Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. But they've fallen apart and like recently. There's not many good horror movies that you can find these days. So I'll just say a good action movie. Good action movie.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm a horror junkie too.
Hmm.
I really got into comedy horror and Bruce Campbell and Army of Darkness, Evil Dead
Oh
series.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Shaun of the
that's my
Dead.
jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning. Solid 4:30 a.m. person.
Do you need an alarm clock or you just awake?
Oh, I do. But I do wake up if I decide to sleep in like 30 minutes extra, so I'll change my alarm and naturally I'll just wake up at 4:30. It's unfortunate, but I like it. It's a different time of day. I like being up before the world starts.
Yeah. What's your lucky number?
5.
How many siblings do you have?
2. An older brother and a younger sister.
Favorite all-time athlete?
I would say Michael Jordan. I love his story. Oh no, you know what? Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson has an
Oh,
incredible story. I mean, from when he was young and the things that he did and who he's grown and involved to is just pretty spectacular.
he's about to get wild with, was it Jake Paul? Is that his name?
Yeah,
Logan Paul? Yeah,
yeah. I
that's
don't
going to be
envy that guy.
crazy. Dude, I would be terrified. Mike Tyson at age 60 whoops everybody's ass. I don't
Yeah,
care.
he's got that old man strength,
Oh,
so it's 10 times more than what it used to be.
yeah, probably. Well, and he's got the prison strength too, like double down.
Yeah, yeah.
Favorite musician or band?
Mm. I really like Clarence Clearwater Revival. They're just a
Uh,
classic that I can always turn to.
Yeah.
My
Is
dad
it
raised me
Freedom
right.
Rock? Turn it up. Yeah, yeah. I like Credence. iPhone or Android?
Um, Android.
Hmm. What's the first thing you drink in the morning?
Water.
Just
With
straight up, just
pre-workout.
okay.
With pre-workout. Yes.
Do you evolve to any other kind of stimulant like tea or coffee or anything like
I'll
that?
do coffee about midday. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I enjoy it, but I live in a bus, so it's kind of a hassle to make. So
You live
I
in a
should have like a
bus.
whole gallon of water too. This thing goes with me everywhere.
I need to understand what living in a bus means. Like a van down by the river? Like what what's going on here?
It's a tiny bus, 5 window, 21 feet, schoolie that I converted into a little home.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm currently staying with my host family right now, which is a longer story. So that's why I'm not in the bus.
Is, is it like where's it parked?
Down the street.
Do you just drive it around sometimes and just kind of
Well,
camp in different
I've been
places?
traveling like crazy these past few months, actually pretty much this whole year so far, and there was a lot of instability that I felt traveling once or twice every month and then going into the bus. And I love the lifestyle, super minimalistic, but it just felt like too much. So I used this company called HelpX, which is a global community of hosts who offer a free place to stay in exchange for a couple hours of work. So I've been staying at this like multi-million-dollar home in Fallbrook, California for free. And it gives me a sense of stability, right? Like I can talk to you. I don't have to worry about uh, power, a fridge, cooking, things like that. And that's really nice to have. But I still have the bus and I'll use that on the weekends to go surf or do whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like does it have like a little bathroom, shower, kitchen, like a travel trailer build out?
No, it's even more minimalistic than that. When I was building it out, I was starting my business and just traveling a lot. I've spent like 6 months in Thailand. Not 6 months, like 3 months. So I didn't want to put in all the bells and whistles and then just leave and not use it. So that the plumbing, the electrical, none of that stuff has been done. And I actually kind of like it like that because I still travel so much that if I'm to leave and say a pipe bursts or the electrical wiring catches fire, then it's just too much of a hassle to deal with. So I can manage without. Like you don't realize how much you don't need until you don't have it. And then you're like, oh, I'm good.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to try that. I'm like now I'm fixated on this bus concept. We've my wife and we've talked about um, those vans. What are they? The Sprinter vans, and
Yeah.
we've seen those built out into cool little accommodations and stuff. So a bus seems like that'd be more
Bus is just
spacious.
so much safer. They're built for impact
Oh yeah,
and they're
yeah,
regularly maintained. So you get an RV or a van, those things are confetti when you get into an accident.
yeah, yeah. Well, and they're just, I mean, they're built like shit anyway,
Yeah.
out of the factory. So,
Yeah.
hmm, interesting. You have the wheels spinning now. Uh, Most terrifying sea creature.
I'd say the octopus, but I don't think
Mhm,
that it's necessarily terrifying as it is like fascinating. It's
mhm,
got like a beak and how
mhm.
many eyes and tentacles and what, 3 brains and 2 stomachs or something like that. It's incredible. They're so smart too.
And it can fit through anything. Like it
Anything.
can morph itself like jello right
Yeah.
through anything.
Yeah.
Crazy. What was your first job?
I worked at Boston Market. I don't even know if
Oh,
those are still around.
yeah, I don't know either.
You remember
I haven't
those?
seen one of those in a while. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they're
I think they're
good.
closing down. It was good, you know, rotisserie chicken, your mashed potatoes, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I don't think they're
Okay.
around anymore though.
Who was your nemesis drill instructor?
I didn't really have one. I liked all my drill instructors, but I was a guide, so I was kind of a suck up anyway. I just, I was like, oh, this is like being back home where my mom yells at me. Like, this isn't too hard. So I
Easy
think that
transition.
Yeah, it was a lot more. Felt a lot more resilient in comparison. It just didn't really phase me. So maybe that was why I wasn't messed with a lot.
You can meet any historical figure for dinner. Who is it?
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay. If you're on death row, what would be your last meal?
Pizza.
What kind?
Like a hearty, meaty motherfucker. Like something with like sausage, bacon. Pretty much like a whole meat pie. Like just meat on, like a steak on top of it too. That would probably be it.
Do you do pineapple on pizza?
No.
Are you against people who do pineapple on pizza?
Sort of, yeah. Yeah, actually. So unnecessary. I would rather have
What's
someone do chicken. That's
yeah,
least egregious.
yeah, yeah. All right. Uh, longest you've ever gone without getting an oil change, which is a different question now than I originally conceived it because you live in a bus.
I live in a bus. I mean, not long. I get it maintained every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my home. I got to take care of that thing.
You got to drive your house over to the Jiffy Lube.
Yeah.
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 Um, you're stranded on a desert island. You can only have one thing that you can fit inside your pocket.
A knife.
Just a knife.
Yeah.
All right. What's your spirit animal?
An elephant. They're so wonderful.
What's the best way to get you to throw the first punch?
Commit an act of violence on someone who's innocent. I'm not a standby person. Yeah. That you ever see those videos? This boils my blood seeing this on Instagram or social media is when somebody is sitting there recording as an act of violence is occurring and they're not doing anything. And I'm just like, try me, try me. I have no capacity to restrain myself when something like that is being done. And it's just like, where are these imbeciles that decide that they have no responsibility in society to do anything when someone's being wrong? It's like, dear God, what does this country come to? So I think that's probably, yeah, I would get violent. I get violent over
Yeah,
that
I saw
stuff.
one yesterday on one of the platforms. Some 14-year-old girl getting stomped, and there's a bunch of older boys standing around filming. I was like,
Wow.
what in the
That's
fuck is
wild.
going on right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd, I'd, I'd lose my mind. I'd go medieval. I don't know if I could do it.
And I think I
I'd be
could
in
get
jail.
away with it because I'm a cute chick. So like, oh, she looks so innocent, blah blah blah. It's like, if a regular white guy were to do something, it's like straight to jail, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. But because I'm racially ambiguous, no problem at all. And that is based on clear observation of how things are coming undone in this country right now. So yeah, I think it's an egregious sight to see somebody be harmed and not do anything about it. I will definitely throw the first punch.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything to do with harming children, I lose it. Like totally. Just I
Yeah.
go abnormal sideways. I can't understand anyone who would do harm to children, and I don't trust anyone who doesn't like dogs.
It's
It's
a
just kind of
very
how it
good
is.
way to tell. I don't trust anyone that a dog doesn't like.
Bingo. Yeah. Because dogs know. They know.
Dogs know.
Yeah.
Dogs know.
Oh, they know. What's your background story? How did you grow up and decide to enter the Marine Corps?
So I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, in a pretty unstable home with my mother, my father, younger sister, and older brother, whom I didn't really get along with. It was a pretty wild environment, especially because my mom, she had alcoholism issues, drug addictions. And so trying to be around her and the impact that she had on my brother at a young age was very difficult. He just became such a violent kid, and it sucks because like he kind of got the first lashes of what my my mom's wrath had done. And so didn't get along with them and was pretty quiet growing up. I was really big into the arts. My grandmother would take me to museums and try to expose me to different places and experiences that helped me just get out of the home, away from my family. And so I grew up with her mostly as my caretaker. And in high school, I went to an arts magnet high school where I focused on photojournalism. I loved photography and just being able to capture the essence of a human being through a lens. And I would wander around downtown Dallas as a 15, 16-year-old, just being like, hey, can I take your photo? I'm a student. And it was always so heartwarming to see from so many different types of people, including the homeless, who were very nice, and they would agree and kind of pose and strike a pose. And it was very fascinating to me to get to be up close and personal with those who are kind of ostracized from society, not just based on their homelessness, but based on the perceptions around homelessness. And so I wanted to pursue photojournalism, but it was one of those fields in which it didn't necessarily matter the degree that you had, it was about the experience that you had. And so I started looking around at different options. And at one point, my brother wanted to join the Marine Corps, but because of his bad decisions and dropping out of school, unfortunately, that was never something that he could do. And the military was never something I had initially considered. But given where I wanted to go in life, it just seemed like something I would try out. And I checked out all the other branches, and the Marines were the most accepting. As soon as I walked in and they found out I went to a difficult recruiting school, I was a female, in shape, scored high on the ASVAB, they're like, oh my God, whatever job that you want, we'll give it to you. And having now been in recruiting while I was in the military, I totally understand that perspective. And somebody just walking in and wanting to join from that type of background is not something that happens all the time. So it was great that they worked with me to be able to get the job that I wanted. So I joined as a combat correspondent, which is essentially a military photojournalist. And from there, I went off to 3 different duty stations and 2 enlistments, which is totally unheard of. Usually you're at a spot for 4 years for your entire enlistment. So I got to really travel and experience different parts of the Marine Corps that a lot of people don't get to within a short period of time. So
Wow. So what's the publication in the Marine Corps? Is it Stars and Stripes?
So those are
Am I-
actually civilian entities like Marine Corps Times, Stars and Stripes. Those have nothing to do with,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
The Marine Corps Public Affairs and photojournalism program, everything that we do is either internal or external. So if we create content via written article, video publication, photography, we can blast those out to media outlets, and they essentially get some coverage and content of things that are going on within the Marine Corps organization or with other branches as well that they can utilize for reporting purposes. So we put stuff out on our own pages, whether it's social media or the websites, but a lot of it is for other media outlets to grab and run with.
Oh, wow, cool. I had no idea.
Yeah. And military photojournalism, I mean, it's like one of the most authentic, transparent journalism pursuits that you can go through, because like ultimately, especially while I was in the military's tried to lie before, and it doesn't last long. It really doesn't. Like, news gets out, people find out about things. It's just better to share information as it comes. And so you get like a pretty honest reporting experience, which is not something that you really are going to find these days with regular outlets.
Right. So, what prompted your ultimate exit from the Marine Corps? You didn't want to go
Um,
career?
hmm. So I, unfortunately, this is a longer story, but in 2018, I think it was 2018, I went to Colombia for a month and spent a whole time out there trekking through the jungles. Went and visited a historical site that actually predates Machu Picchu. And when I was there doing my hike, I was offered like coca tea, which is great for elevation sickness and whatnot for not only treks there, but in Peru, and used as a regular product throughout South America. And at the time, like, I didn't know that this was something that was an illegal substance. I thought it was like coca, like not cacao, or like not coca,
Right,
cacao, like, yeah. And
right.
so didn't know anything about it. And when I came back and I brought this back with me, and I had it throughout like the rest of the year and would drink it here and there. And ultimately, um, at one point in time, I finally got drug tested. And that wasn't something that really necessarily happened too often. I would say like every quarter or so. And so just happened to be drinking it at the time that I went through this urinalysis. And Sergeant Major calls me in like a week later and is like, "You popped on cocaine." And so it was such a wild thing because I was trying to work with lawyers at the time who like didn't believe me and I didn't know what was going on. And so come to find out of the entire batch of, I think it was like 45 people that were examined for urinalysis, 26 of them had discrepancies.
Wow.
That's not my fucking business, right? But with that coming to light, in the investigation that my lawyer had requested information on, I was like, oh, so did somebody do something? Did somebody plant something? You know what I mean? Like, there are all these questions coming up in my head and with my lawyer in terms of like what's going on here. So it was very interesting to see that result. Like, and so we kind of started boiling things down. I was big into meal prepping and knew what I ate, and like by the by ounces I knew what I ate, right? I was big into my fitness. And so we boiled it down to the T, and he was like, "I want you to go get a store-bought drug test." And I did. Sure enough, it came out positive. So this
Wow.
tea is not only illegal to obviously bring into the United States, but it's illegal to consume. So, unfortunately, because of that, I was generally under honorably discharged. So, it's not the worst case scenario, but it's not the best case scenario either. And so, I had also a DUI. Then, unfortunately, I suffered from alcoholism, and that weighed into the
Mm,
decision as well. And looking back at it, it's like so grateful that all of this unfolded the way it did, because especially now and with how I see the military operating, the type of person that I am, I just wouldn't be able to assimilate to, unfortunately, what it is bullshit that's happening in the United States military. It's insane what is going on right now, to the policies, the procedures, the regulations being enforced, and the way that the government treated service members during COVID. Like, no. I am thankful that I was kicked out at the time that I was, because I think that I probably wouldn't have lasted even much longer, and it would have been even worse terms, to be honest, because of everything that's going on. So it wasn't by choice, but I'm grateful that it happened.
yeah. I saw some clip of a Marine getting dragged to get vaccinated. I don't know if you saw that clip, but
What?
they're forcefully vaccinating people, and I think there's a lawsuit going on now about it. But yeah, yeah, this dude
Wow.
by his team pulled him into the medical clinic and
Wow.
restrained him and jabbed him.
Wow. That doesn't,
Hmm.
and that's the thing that doesn't surprise me. We
Hmm.
are eroding our morale from the inside out. China,
Yeah.
Russia, Syria, they don't have to do anything. We're destroying it internally. So it doesn't surprise me. And it just is so infuriating because many of us joined because we believed in this grand idea of patriotism that involved supporting the people of this country. And then to see that be eradicated from the inside out and rot is another kind of frustration.
Well, and it's going woke. Hardcore left turn woke. And then they scratch their heads and wonder, why is there a recruiting crisis? Why is there a retention crisis? What's wrong, you know?
You tell me. Yeah, I've noticed that quite a bit, and there are some frustrations that I have with very specific DEI policies that completely go against the fabrication of a warfighting organization and what we are meant to do. War doesn't give a fuck about your emotions and your hormones that you have to inject in order to stay operably ready. I don't care. I want the first person that can fight in the front lines and who's going to take care of their men and women next to them. Other than that, I could care less. But it seems to me that there's a lot of big players and actors involved at a higher level who are intentionally destroying the United States government. So, you know, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. And I mean, America is great because we have a great military. And if that starts to dilute, I mean, we have no major exports. We import everything. We are not sustainable as a country by ourselves. We need other viable resources from other places. So if our military begins to crumble based on operability and morale, and we're attacked or something happens, I mean, the response is detrimental to our nation's integrity. And I don't know if that's planned or not, but you know, after I got out of the military, and I see a lot of veterans too. They run around with their tinfoil hats, and I'm like, all right, I'd rather look crazy than be the one that's wrong at the end of the day.
It can only be intentional. It can only be intentional. You see it everywhere, and you see it in every other westernized country. Plain and simple, the same shit is happening everywhere.
Yeah. Just gotta stay observant. I think that's the best we can do right now.
All right, so you get out of the Marines, and now it's time to rejoin the world around you. What did that path look like? What took you on the entrepreneurial journey, and how did you get from there to here?
Yeah. When I was in the Marine Corps, I lacked a great sense of identity and personality that extended outside of the uniform. I felt like my rank and last name was the only thing that epitomized who I was. And so when I did travel and finally start traveling, I was like, wow, there's a whole other universe and world out there that I could be discovering that has absolutely nothing to do with the United States government. And so I really leaned into that. I had mentioned my grandmother earlier. She was very curious and adventurous. So her wild spirit was something that I kind of carried with me. And when I began to explore as an active duty service member, I was often questioned on how I was doing this as a service member in the military. And I quickly realized that there was not a single travel community that existed for the U.S. Armed Forces. That was something that I realized was a big problem because the first step is awareness and just knowing that these possibilities exist and a sense of inspiration to go to those places. So I started Liberisk as a military travel community on Facebook and Instagram where people could connect and share their stories and find opportunities and get some guidance on where to go. And that was while I was at recruiting at my last duty station. And when I was going through the admin set process, I really started to dig into it and was like, okay, this is cool, but like, what could it be? So at the time COVID had happened, my replacement was already there, and my command was super supportive of what was going on. They were like, you have a shit show of a situation that you're dealing with right now. Go figure out your life and what you're going to do and transition out so you can be as best supported as you can. Totally unheard of, right? A command member actually supporting their Marine. Whoa. But they did. And so I worked another job, and then I co-owned a lumber company with another veteran. So I was working with them, trying to save as much money because I had no idea what my discharge was going to be, had no idea what I was going to be left with. And at the same time was building Liberisk into this thing. And given my experience in recruiting, having hosted events before for the recruiters in the local area, I put together a meetup for service members and veterans to go scuba diving in the morning and then get tacos and tequila in the afternoon and then go sea kayaking in the afternoon. It was so much fun. People had a great time. And I just felt like, wow, this could really, really, really be something. Like, this is special. This is cool. This is what people want. They want to show up and not have to think and just experience, go through the motions of having fun with authentic people who are in search of the same thing as them, which is adventure, travel, community. So when I got out, I realized like this was my calling, and I continued to build the tribe virtually, but also started to experiment heavily in terms of bringing people together, the art of that, and figuring out the methodology behind creating gatherings. So 2021, 2022, 2023, all very massively experimental with some really good successes and a lot of failures, where I learned exactly what not to do, which was phenomenal because it made me realize like, okay, yes, that wasn't perfect, but here's how we can pivot. And having that sense of navigation and adaptability from the Marine Corps was very applicable to this. So I I had worked through that and trying to figure out what we were going to become. And ultimately, it's just this awesome military travel community that is outliving me. Like, this is going to touch lives that exist beyond my legacy. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. But in terms of my transitions, like, I'm just grateful that I had command personnel that let me go do my thing, and then everything else kind of fell in place. And I feel like because I had the autonomy and independence to navigate that year, it was a much smoother transition that not many other service members get to experience, unfortunately.
Yeah, because when we first talked, it was because I was exploring this opportunity at like a tourist destination and was looking to add something to it. And I had seen some content of yours and just reached out of the blue, and thank you for picking up the phone and getting in touch. But I was immediately impressed by your immediate actions to start planning and understanding how to leverage your resources. And you talked to me about the true costs that you can get these adventures down to for your organization. In fact, I think you said something. I said, "Wow, how could you do that so cheap?" And you just said, "I don't fuck around." How have you? So how have you figured out how to lean things out so much to provide so much value to the attendees of your adventures?
Yeah, I say, don't compromise, negotiate. I mean, there's always wiggle room for everything, especially in the travel industry. I mean, come on, everybody, it's really just about shaking hands and whittling it down to a price. We talk about haggling like it's not a thing in business. It's like it certainly is. And then if you're a repeat customer, then it definitely is. So, the travel industry is something that I've been obsessed with learning about. I'll take a moment real quick. So this book by Elizabeth Becker, it is a telltale sign of a travel professional, whether they've read this or not, if I'm going to take them seriously. Like, there's so much in the tourism industry that is unspoken about whether it's good or bad. And I think that we do a disservice when we're not actually understanding the industry and we're just leaning into something that has a lot of GPD producing capabilities. And I think it's bullshit. So I call a lot of bullshit on the bullshit. And I think that's why we're able to make profit and cut costs for people. It's just like, just I don't like fluff. I don't like fluff. A lot of it's fluff, and that's why things are so expensive.
So I should read that book, and maybe then the bank will take a second look and say that I have a little bit more credibility to manage a business like that.
I don't know about that, but it's a good start. It's very well written. It'll just open your eyes to a lot of things in the tourism industry for sure.
So what is your call to action for LibreRisk? Who are you looking for? Who do you want to participate? Who are the people out there that you need support from?
That's a great question, and it's kind of multifaceted. I'll answer the first part in terms of like who we're trying to reach, and that is active duty reservists and veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces of all branches, all eras, and all discharges. I say that with a bit of empathy. So those people, regardless, and I mean, there's so many people across the globe that haven't been touched yet or know about LibreRisk. And then in terms of support, I just want to clarify, we are a for-profit travel company that has a travel agency, and we host adventure, wellness, and cultural immersion retreats. So we're not a nonprofit. I looked at that route, and it is incredibly oversaturated with a lot of mediocre organizations. I don't say that to talk shit on those people. It's just the absolute reality of their programs, and there's not enough effort being put forth in their programs, how they're developed, or their volunteers and how they're supported. So going the for-profit route was very intentional. And the ways in which we've garnished support is, it's wild to see people just want to give us money. It's really cool because they know the humble beginnings of where we started, and just me, little old me doing this, and where we're going. So we have companies now in the travel, recreation, or outdoor space that donate products for our retreats to have them try. They offer sponsorship opportunities and either cover the deposits for participants. We have scholarships being offered, partial scholarships for some of our trips. And we even have people who are now donating, and they know that it's going to the participants. And so we're able to bring down the cost tremendously by hundreds of dollars because of either companies or people who just believe in our cause. And I did a kind of a post all across Facebook and LinkedIn, Instagram the other day about what people's thoughts were on a for-profit accepting donations. And there wasn't a single person who said, nah, I wouldn't do that. Every single person was in support, and they could care less that it was a for-profit, and they could care less about it being tax deductible. It just doesn't seem to be in people's radar. Like, they don't really care. And it doesn't matter, honestly, given that you really got to be donating a lot or consistently in order for it to matter come tax season. So I think that speaks volumes for how people look at for-profits versus nonprofits. The only difference is one is publicly traded and the other isn't. That's literally it in being tax deductible. So that's a lot. That gives me a lot of confidence in where we're going.
The service is the service. That's all that really matters. It's the value you're providing to your participants. Jessica, risk it for the biscuit. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you?
I tried diving into this phrase, and it was a bit difficult to find the historical origins of it. So LibreRisk, I'll back it up a little bit and answer a question with another question or answer. Like, LibreRisk is derived from the term liberty risk, which was usually coined for service members or usually Marines who had a knack for getting into risky situations on leave or liberty. So that's the official terminology that the Department of Defense uses for your vacation time. So a liberty risk or a libo risk, they were the ones that you really just kind of had to keep an eye on. And so risk it for the biscuit is something that I started to say after we founded the company. And you never know what the biscuit is. A biscuit, and actually this was a British saying originally, and so biscuits are sweets in the UK. They have biscuits which are quite delicious little things, and so risk it for the biscuit was kind of something that the British would say for doing whatever they needed to achieve an outcome, a positive outcome, or a future gain. Yeah. So I think not only does it rhyme, but it's just it fits the community quite well. Risk it for the biscuit.
Do you find that what you're providing through Liberisk to your participants is also a healing journey for yourself?
Great question. Absolutely. I'm such a better fucking human being because of this. Oh my gosh. Really though. Nobody talks about that in entrepreneurship, is like, how do you become a better human being, right? Because being a business owner, someone of service, either providing a product or a service, is focused on the customer, of giving and impacting someone else. And so you never look intrinsically at the value of how you develop as a human. And God, I was sober for 11 months last year because I wanted to be on point. I wanted to show up my most authentic, positive, most powerful self for these people in the community. Like, I feel the weight of responsibility that is held in building a business and potentially hiring people and what that means. There's a great book called Small Giants that just brought me to tears because I came to realize, like, oh my God, this is going to impact lives. This is going to, I'm going to make an imprint on the economy. What? So what a beautiful thing to think about, and help put food on the table and roof over people's heads. And I think that when I understood the weight of that responsibility, it helped me dial down the non-negotiables that I had to enforce to proportionately affect my outcomes as a business owner. So there's no negotiating with that. I have to be, I must be someone of value and show up because people are now depending on me. That is always going to produce a better human being when you accept that responsibility. And by the nature of my job in this business, when I'm interacting with different personalities at my retreats, and some of them aren't the easiest people, I've been blessed to have a consistent population of really dope individuals, wonderful participants, but there's onesies and twosies that make me want to pull my hair out. And then I have to take a step back as a facilitator and go, Jess, what are you learning? What are you learning? You're learning something.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself has made me a much better human being, more empathetic and accepting, patient. And I think also too, I have such a sense of purpose and value in this world that is lost very often within the veteran community. And knowing that I have some contribution to our people allows me to continue forward even when times are difficult. So I think that's something we're all in search of, is our impact.
Absolutely. I had a great coach, Diane Consolino, years ago, who taught me how to observe myself, and how to, what she would say is, when you show up in your life, you need to be an observer instead of just reacting to the things that are happening, and give yourself some grace to make mistakes. But when you make those mistakes, don't beat yourself up immediately. Just observe yourself and say, that was interesting. Why did I say that? that was interesting. Why did I feel that when that person said that to me? And by being able to step outside of myself with that guidance from Diane, it really changed my life, because at the time, I was an employer for somewhere around 20 people. And the responsibility you're talking about is, it was my job to sell the business, build the relationships to foster those sales, manage the business and the financials so the business could stay afloat. And ultimately, that dollar coming in moved all the way to 20 families' dinner tables. And that was a heavy weight to realize, especially during hard times when sometimes you have to let people go because of your own bad mistakes. So that advice was life-changing to me. And it sounds like Liberisk is allowing you to have certain revelations like that for yourself as well.
Yeah, yeah. There was a participant who on day, I think 2 or 3 of our first international retreat, he said, Liberisk doesn't live in the institution, it lives in all of us. Oh my God. That's gonna sit in my soul for the rest of my life. And that particular trip, I walked away with 10 new friends, wonderful friends. So as I start to accumulate these experiences alongside these participants, I'm slowly building up a reservoir of friendships that I never had in my life too. So I'm going to be a little selfish and and lean into those relationships and continue to foster them, because they're not just customers, they're community members and people that I truly value. And I think that as this continues to grow, I really try to reiterate to people that Liberisk will live beyond me. I am currently the face right now, and I don't want to remain the face. So as we evolve and get bigger and take on bigger responsibilities, that means hiring people, expanding mindfully and slowly, and still remaining small, yet impactful. And once that occurs, then it'll be nice to remove my face and have essentially an energy around a logo that everybody feels as if they have a piece in it. It's no longer just me, and I can step away from it. And this thing will be living and breathing on its own.
I love your energy.
Thank
You got the
you.
good vibe. Yeah,
Oh, I appreciate that. It was nice
you're
chatting with you. I love that question. And it, like, how has it influenced you as a business owner? Have you grown as, developing a business? Because again, nobody really talks about that. And it's like,
yeah.
people want to shit talk on the millionaires and people who run businesses and stuff like that. And it's like, a lot of them are really good people. They just have to put policies in place so they don't get fucked over. And then we think that they're bad people because they have rules. It's like, well, there's rules everywhere, there's rules everywhere, but a lot of them are really just good people. And they saw a vision and they wanted to create an outcome that would solve the problem somewhere. If you don't like it, then you go do it and innovate something better.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's real easy to complain and point the finger when you're not the one taking the risk.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Jessica, thank you so much. How can people find you, find Liberisk?
Google is a great start. Google's a great start. It's the first thing that comes up, but I say that because our website is really awesome and robust. I do not do enough of a good job of promoting that. Our ambassadors are doing a better job at that, so I really appreciate them. So you can find our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, our private Facebook group on there, as well as travel resources for service members and veterans. We have all of our retreats. We even have information about volunteer travel opportunities, information about different regions of the world, free military programs through the nonprofits that offer opportunities and retreats themselves, and just so much on there. And so, yeah, I would navigate everybody towards the great machine of Google. So they'll find everything that they need.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. It's a breath of fresh air having you on. I appreciate what you do. And
appreciate it, Richard. It's great chatting with you again. And yeah, stay risky.